So there are three major types of percent calculations that we should become familiar with if we're to have success with percent problems. Okay, and I'm going to outline those three types here, starting with finding a total value. So finding a total value can occur after an increase, okay, or it can occur, after a decrease, or as you can see in this example I'm highlighting, discount. Discount's just a word for a decrease, particularly used, with shopping and retail and whatnot. And so just consider that to be a decrease. Okay, so finding total value after a change. That's one calculation. Another calculation is finding the original value. Okay, once again, after a change, whether it's an increase or a decrease of some sort, finding original value is another type of calculation. And then finally, finding the actual change itself. So that would be finding the increase value or the decrease value. Okay, and you can see particularly, here's two types. Here's a decrease here. Again, discount. We talked about that, right? And another increase called markup. Markup is a word for when companies, increase the price of goods that they purchase so that they can make a profit and then resell it, of course. So let's start out with finding a total value after a change. All right. In this case, we'll start with the decrease. All right. So reading the words, it says what we should do is subtract a percent decrease from 100%. Okay. So do that first. And then what you're going to do is multiply that number by the original value. And so here is a example that we can go over where this person opens an investment account with $6,200, but by the end of the year it had decreased, all right, by 21%. And the question asks, how much money is in the account? So how much money is in the account? That's referring to total value. So here we're going to use this calculation. All right, we're going to subtract that 21.5%. All right, 21.5% from 100 first. Of course, that gives us 78.5%. So essentially, the value today is worth 78%, 78.5% of what it was. So now, just follow the formula here. Multiply it by the original value of 6,200. All right, and so when you punch that in your calculator, 78.5% times 6,200, that's going to give you a new value of $4,867. So that's how you find the percent change after a decrease. Okay. And just to go through a couple of other examples, I'm not going to do the calculations necessarily, but just so you can see some other examples of where you're being asked to find the total value. Here it says October of 2008 saw one of the worst real estate market drops in history as home values decreased at a rate of 18%. If a home was valued at $350,000 before the devaluation, what would the value of the home be? So here it says, what would the value of the home be? That's a total value. All right, that is not a change. And so this is the same type of calculation. Here, a furniture store is running a blowout sale where everything is selling at 65% off the original price. If a kitchen table was originally selling at $12.50, what is the sale price? So again, sale price. What's the sale price? That's a total value. Okay? So that's how you find total value after a decrease. So let's take a look at finding a total value after an increase. All right, and so here it is. Here, of course, the only difference is you add the percent to 100%, right? And so here you talk about a sports car that's going to be 14.6% more than what it used to be. So you just take that number, add the 14.6 to 100. Of course, that becomes 114.6%, 114.6%. and we'll multiply that by the 43,000. Okay. All right, so here's that question. What will be the price of the next model? That's a total value. All right, and so what we'll do is punch in 114.6%, multiply that by 43,000, and you get 49,278. That is the total value after the increase. All right, the cost of the sports car. So you see the only difference there is just really adding the percent, to 100 as opposed to subtracting it. Some more examples here of what they look like. This one asks, what's the value of the item now? That's a total value. This one asks, what's the selling price? Again, that is a total value, selling price. All right. It doesn't ask anything about what's the markup or what have you. Okay, so be on the lookout for those things in total value. So that's one calculation that we've gone over. So we have two more to discuss. All right, so let's talk about finding decrease value. All right, this is an easy calculation. You're just finding the change. All right, so finding the change is simply taking the percent and multiplying it by the given value. All right, so in this scenario, Tommy's investment account, right, we started with $6,200. But look at the difference in the question. How much is the decrease in dollars? That's all that's being asked. So you just take the percentage and multiply it by 6,200, right? And so 21.5% times 6,200, and you get $1,333. So his account dropped by that value, all right? And so really that, finding these changes is really the easiest calculation. You just take the two given values or the two numbers, the percent and the value, and then multiply them. Okay, let's take a look at a couple other decrease value examples. Here, a struggling company has cut 19% of its workforce. If there were 59,500 before the cut, how many workers did the company let go? So how many workers did the company let go? That's the change. They're asking the change. It's not asking how many employees the company has now. Okay. October of 2008 saw the worst real estate market drops in history. Okay, one of them. Decrease at a rate of 18. What would the decrease value have been? Okay, in other words, what's the change? Again, not asking what the value of the home would have been, but what's the change? All right, and so let's take a look at just an increase problem. It's the same, really. This is going to be the same calculation as finding the decrease, same exact calculation, except it's an amount of increase as opposed to decrease. All right, so here the question is, how much will the price increase in dollars? And that would just be 14.6% times 43,000. Much different than the previous question about this one, where it says what's the cost of the car going to be. Completely different question. Here it says you buy a collectible item for $935 several years ago. The item is now valued at 25% more than what you originally paid. And so now, by how much money did the collectible increase? So by how much did it increase in value? Directly asks for the change, the dollar value change. All right, and here's another one. Car dealership marks it up 19%. All right, how much money in markup does the dealership apply? So how much markup it's asking, not what's the value of the car or the price of the car. All right, so now we've covered two different calculations. We've covered total value and we've covered change. Okay, so now our last calculation we're going to cover in this video is finding the original value after a change. Okay, and we'll start off again with a decrease. Okay, so with these types, anytime you're being asked to find an original value, probably the best thing to do would be to set up a proportion to have this make sense. Okay, And so let's go through that so you can see what I mean. All right, the sofa is on sale for 15% off. All right, the sale price is $476. All right, what is the regular price of the sofa? So again, if you see find the original or the regular price or what it used to be, an old value, these are all ways to find original value. These are all questions asking to find an older value. And if you're trying to do that, for me, the best thing is to set this up. Set up a proportion with 100 in the denominator of a percent ratio, and then you'll have a numerical ratio, which we're going to use right there. That'll be our numerical ratio. So you'll see as we go along. All right, so the sale price of $476 and the 15% off, that's going to be, we're going to throw that in the numerator. All right, you're going to see why in a sec. So the 15% off, I want you to subtract that from 100. So we'll do that, and then you get 85. Okay, so what that means is that the sofa is now selling at 85% of what it used to be. So this $476 represents 85% of the original price. And that's why we're able to mathematically set this up this way. And of course, the unknown is associated with 100%. And 100% is always going to be related to what the regular price is or the original value is and stuff like this, okay? And so now, just go through the math here. Okay, 476 times 100. Okay, that's 47,600, of course, and then divide by the remaining value of 85. So that's going to give us the price that it used to be, $560, which makes sense. It should be more than what the sale price is, of course. And going through that, you can see now this wording would make sense because we're going to multiply the new value by 100, which is what we did when we cross multiplied, right? 476 times 100. And then we divided that by the difference of 100% and the decrease percent. And so that's here, right? That's how we found the difference. We did 100 minus 15 right here. 100 minus 15, that's how we got that 85, okay? And so that's exactly how we did this. We multiplied these, and then we divided by that difference. All right, so that's finding the original value after a decrease. Now, of course, it's going to work slightly different on an increase. You're going to add the percent, right? Okay, so let's take a look at finding an original value after an increase, right? Here's a situation where you have a growing company that has 28% more employees than it did a year ago, right? So if there's currently 67,200 employees, then how many employees did it have a year ago? So we're asking for a number from a year ago. That's finding an original value. And so the calculation is going to be just like the previous one, where we're going to put 100 here. All right, and then we're also going to understand that this is 28% more, so today it's 128% of what it used to be, right? So we add that 28%. And of course, today's number is associated with that new percentage, and we're trying to find, last year's number. Okay, so it's going to be 67,200 times 100. Of course, that gives us, tend to get these big numbers, 6,720,000. All right, and then you just divide that, just like the formula says, the sum of 100% and the increase percent. That's 128. Okay, and so when you do that division, you end up with $52,500. And so that is how you find the original value after an increase. All right. You can see, before we close this video out, you could just see a couple more examples of what these types of problems are asking for. Here's another example. This year, a small business had total revenue of $44,000. If this is 26% more than their total revenue in the previous year, what was their total revenue in the previous year? So that's finding an original value, the previous year's revenue. Okay, let's take a look at another decrease example where you're finding original value. You have to decrease here at 12% rebate, right? Truck sells for $32,000. What's the regular price? This is the same question. When you're trying to find a regular price after a discount, that's finding original value. Okay, so you would use the proportion setup for that type of problem. Here's another one. Struggling company. We went over this one. How many employees? Well, we went over this one in a different light where we were asked to find the change. This time it says how many employees did the company have a year ago, and that's finding an original value. So in any event, if you can master these three types of calculations, right? Total value, understand that total value, original value, and finding changes have different types of calculations, then you'll be able to increase your performance in percent calculation.